that I had to record the event. See, I almost blew it. So we're now recording the event. So now that we're recording the event, the recording will show up in the Physical Security Use site. Now, once you're enrolled in the PSU 201 course, and watch your email when you're done with this webinar, because you will get notified of your enrollment. And you can go ahead and click on this PSU 201 course, and it will bring up a page that looks like this. Now, the way you're going to enter the course is you're going to click the Enter button, which is right under the description of the course. And of course, it'll enter. Now, you'll hear some sound playing. What's going to happen is it's going to load. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the audio off so you don't hear that. But this is the splash screen of the course. And after it's done playing the splash screen, it'll automatically advance to the course menu. So you can see the 3 different course options here. And you can simply click on them. And you can, there's various videos of me in here. And there's various sections that you can go through. The best way to navigate this course is in the bottom left-hand side of the screen. You've got a forward and a backward button that will navigate through the page. So when in doubt, always use these forward and backward buttons, and it'll take you through a variety of things in much more detail than I'll be covering in the webinar today. So anyway, you'll notice there's a section on video management, section on sales strategy, section on compute, storage, network. Now, there are a couple of places in here where you can see some videos that I've done on particular sample products offered by Toshiba. In these cases, you can simply click on them and view them. And this is an example of one where I've done some close-up shots of the Toshiba product and explain how they work. Throughout these, I've kind of explained how they would be applicable to education and why this product or similar products would work. And so when you're done with them, you can click Done. It'll take you back to the menu. And so you'll notice that as you go through here, there's a variety of those throughout the course. They're all recorded by me. So unless you get bored of looking at me, there'll be a lot of stuff for you to watch. Under the final module, camera types, there are a variety of camera type ones. And in those, you have places where you can view cameras as well. Now, one particular one I want to talk about is this dome camera one. This last one I've done is a pretty long video, and it gives you a pretty significant deep dive on the feature sets involved in small dome cameras. And so I would recommend that video above most of the videos that I have in there. When you're finally done with the course, you can, after you've done navigating through the entire course, and there's quite a bit of content in here, you can get to the evaluation. Now, when you take the evaluation, I just want to focus on this with you for a minute. If you pass this examination with 100%, then Toshiba will automatically promote you as a partner into their platinum level partner program, which will give you a 4% cash rebate on all purchases, and it will give you significant discounts on their products. So if you like what you see on the samples that I've done with Toshiba, Toshiba is extending an offer exclusive to this course only and to the attendees of this webinar that you could become leapfrogged into their platinum level program if you want, and that will give you significant discounts. Of course, you have to pass my test first, and it's brutal. So I'll just show you how it works. You click the Start button, and here's your first question. When you think you know the answer, you can click on it, and then when you think you know the answer, you click the Submit button first before you click Next. When you click Submit, it'll tell you if you're incorrect or you're correct. And then you're ready to move on and click Next. When you're all said and done, it'll tell you what percentage you succeeded or failed. If you did not get 100%, it allows you to retake it again until you finally do get 100%. And the questions do mix up a bit. So there you go. That's basically how you participate in the 201 course. When you're all done and you complete it, there will be a certification that you can print at the end with my signature on it and with your name, and you can print that signature. After you're completely done, it will show up in the gradebook on the online course module system here that indicates you've 100% done, and I will communicate that information to Toshiba so that if you are interested in becoming or taking advantage of their offer, then you can do so. All right, so that is PSU 201, and that's how you get access to the course, and that's how you take a look at that. All right, Kiko, if there are any questions, you'll let me know.
Yep,
so
no
next thing,
yet.
All right, good. So that's how you review the PSU 201 course. A couple of other things you may want to know about is we have a PSU, a couple of other places that you can go. So let me talk about where those are at right now. First off, I now have a blog, and I'm not the only one blogging here. Kiko and various others are also blogging here. But you'll notice that I'm starting to post blogs. My goal is to blog every Friday is my goal. And so I just did one last Friday, and here's that one. They will normally be tied to a course event that is coming up. And so if you want to track the blogs that are happening, then you can go to blog.physicalsecurityu.com. The other site you may want to be interested in is the YouTube site. So if you go to youtube.com/user/Guy Reams, I've dedicated one of my Guy Reams channels to the Physical Security University, and I am posting about 2 videos a week up here, and you can see all the videos that are starting to post. I just started about 2 weeks ago, so I'm just starting to get in the swing of things and creating videos. And so you can go up here and look at all the videos I'm creating, and some may be interesting, some may not be interesting to you. But go ahead and take a look at what's happening on the YouTube channel. If you would like to subscribe to the channel, the way you do that is over on the left-hand side of YouTube, you click Browse Channels, and then you would search for my name, not in the top here, but in right here where it says Search Channels, you would search for Guy Reams, and then basically you can click Subscribe if you want to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you subscribe to the one that says Guy Reams, not the one that says Guy Reams at MSJC. Also, every time I post a video or every time I launch a course, I'm posting it to my Twitter feed. So if you want to follow me on Twitter and you want real-time, as it happens videos as they post, then the way I'm announcing that to the community is through Twitter. And so you can subscribe to me at Twitter. And as you can see here, every time I post a video or post a course, I Twitter feed that as well. All right, that's it. That's how you get more information about PSU. Just to let you know, the PSU lab is developing. Let me show you here. Some of you have been asking me about this. So let me just show you real quick. Here's the overview. You can see now through the video screen the PSU lab. In fact, what I'll do is I'll zoom out. Maybe I will. So I will show you the entire lab here. So here's the lab. I'm sitting right underneath the camera. That's why you can't see me. But this is the PSU lab. Basically, we are getting a lot of equipment in from one of our vendors, and we are going to be able to start running courses which give you virtual access into the lab so that you can run and experiment with products yourself. That is coming soon. I don't have it ready to go yet, but it's coming. I'm also putting in an entire new ladder racking system in the lab, so I'll be able to mount all my cameras instead of laying them on the floor, which is what I'm doing now. And so we're excited about that. And the Visio diagram you have over to the right is what the lab is going to look like. After this event is done, make sure you watch your email because you'll be getting an invite to that 201 course if you haven't already been added to the course. All right, these are the courses that are upcoming. We have the Vertical Market Series courses. We have one on education, which is what you're in now. We have one coming up on retail and one coming up on small business. I have several Solution Series courses coming up. I have one on remote or mobile environments, which is launching next week. I have one on retail storefronts, which is coming soon. I have one on building an IP camera setup for outdoor surveillance. I have one on converting analog CCTV to IP surveillance systems. And I have one on power considerations coming up all in Q4. Next year, we'll be launching a Network Fundamentals course, and we'll also be launching a Basics and Security Fundamentals course, which talk about video and basic video camera fundamentals. that'll be happening early in the year of 2014. So look at your email. Kiko will be advertising those courses out when they get ready to go. In fact, 2 more courses have just launched, and they'll be ready next week. And that is the first of which is the Implementing IP Cameras in a Remote or Mobile Environment. So those are the upcoming courses. Let's talk about today's course agenda. We'll be going right up until about noon in today's webinar. And after the webinar is over, feel free to log on to the online course and at your leisure, try to complete the course and complete my brutally hard examination. So here we go. We're going to talk today about, first off, we're going to talk about the opportunity in education and just how big that opportunity is. We'll talk about sales and marketing strategies for education. Then I'm going to move into the video management system, which I believe in the educational market is the absolute #1 thing you need to be selling into an educational space is the video management system. We'll talk about VMSs and why they're important. If we have time, I will deep dive a little bit into the Toshiba Surveillance system so you can see what that looks like, and we'll take a look at a real video management system. I also want to talk to you about compute, storage, and network issues in education, and so we'll talk a little bit about that. Module 3, we'll talk about camera types. There's 3 or 4 different camera types I recommend that you add to your repertoire. Basically, you want to know 2 or 3 camera types and know them well so that when you're in an educational environment or doing a job walk, you'll know what type of cameras fit in what type of environment. We'll also talk about some of the physical infrastructure issues that you need to be concerned with, whether you're a contractor or not, what types of infrastructure issues you need to deal with when putting in cameras. And then finally, we will not be doing an exam for this webinar, and I've already reviewed the exam. But the 4th aspect of this course is an evaluation and Toshiba's special offer for anybody who completes that. All right, let's talk about the opportunity. So the education opportunity is a big one. I was digging up some research. There are almost 100,000 public elementary and secondary schools in the United States. There's basically a school in almost every one of our communities. No matter where you're at in the country, whether you're in an urban environment or in a rural environment, chances are you have 1 or more educational facilities, either public, private, or post-secondary, in your community. There are a growing number of private schools. This number's been growing dramatically. And I'm talking about private K-12 schools. If we add trade schools, that number is even greater. But there's about 35,000 private schools in the United States. If you add trade schools, that number is well over 100,000 itself. So between public elementary and private schools, we have probably 150,000 school facilities in the United States when dealing just with public-private K-12. The numbers being spent on construction have dwindled since 2000. In 2002, there was a renaissance in K-12 construction. That renaissance, there was a giant boom. It seemed like our state and local community leaders were spending money with reckless abandon when it came to building new schools. That slowed down in 2007 and in 2008. And it stayed pretty slow up until about last year. However, there's been a recent resurgence in new construction growth in K-12 and in post-secondary. So we've spent, in 2011, we had over $12 million spent in new construction. And by the way, that's bonded construction. That's not counting construction dollars that came from other sources. In California, as an example, I'm from California. In California, on our November ballot, we had throughout the state a significant number of bond issues before the voters regarding ballot initiatives that would authorize a bond. So, and in fact, we've noticed that in California alone, there was over 80% of those bonds passed in California. Now, you would think in California, as strapped for cash as the state is, that the voters would turn their nose up at new bond measures. But that has not been the case. Most bond measures, especially for school construction, have been passing. I've noticed as I've combed the country, looking at bond measures across the country, that remains true throughout the United States. In addition to bond measures, there's safe school grants coming out by the feds and by FEMA and by the Department of Homeland Security and by other state and local organizations. Those safe school grants are really propelling physical security sales in public sector education especially. However, education is not about construction. However, a large amount of it is construction. Some of you may come from smaller companies which would never hope to be able to bond a large construction job. Don't worry, I got my start in education security sales not by being bonded initially, but by subcontracting. But I did not go after new construction. I went after maintenance. Maintenance was the way that I got into my educational customers. Because once they had their initial construction project done, the contractor would move on, and the school district was left holding the ball on video management system renewals, on camera replacements, fix and repair, and an incident response. I was able to go in and take over those, and as I grew my business, when that school district got a project coming down the pipe, I was able to eventually qualify to be able to get the new construction business as well. Do not turn your eye to existing infrastructure. Existing infrastructure is where most of the dollars are spent in education when it comes to camera and camera licensing. In addition, we're in a unique scenario. The rest of the world is starting to catch on to the idea that IP video is growing and replacing closed-circuit television systems of yesterday. However, what you don't realize is that two systems are starting to get old. The old CCTV systems that need to be replaced are getting old. That's a golden opportunity for you to come in and replace those. But also the IP camera systems of 5 to 8 years ago are also getting old. A lot of school districts jumped on the IP camera bandwagon back in the 2000, 2002 construction boom. They added a whole bunch of IP cameras. Well, guess what? Most of those IP cameras are starting to fail. Even the best camera manufacturers will never brag more than a 5-year replacement cycle on their cameras. So consequently, we are now in the point where even IP camera systems need to be replaced. If I would recommend to you to be in there at your educational customers talking about maintenance and replacement provisions. School districts are hard to go after because of bonding issues and because of purchase contracts issues, but they're easy to go after in terms of their readiness for IP cameras. Most school facilities have already dealt with convergence because they have switch infrastructure in place for camera devices, but they also have it in place for PCs and phones and that sort of thing. Because the infrastructure is already in place, adding an IP camera is not that difficult. In addition, a lot of school facilities have already had money to invest in infrastructure. So a lot of times you're not reinventing the wheel when it comes to network or physical infrastructure. So sometimes a camera installation or maintaining or replacing an existing camera system can be an easy approach for you to get in and start getting some good security deals under your belt. Sales strategies. Let's talk briefly about some sales strategies. In the online course, I go into more detail. First off, the first thing you need to realize is that decision makers are changing in school districts. 10 years ago, I always dealt with the maintenance and facilities people. That's how I got into a school district when I talked about security cameras. Now, I'd be hard-pressed to find a maintenance person that really understood what was going on with their camera systems. It seems that the decision makers are moving to the IT guy. So the IT guy is starting to handle the IP camera installation. Of course, the cameras are being added to their network. Shouldn't they be involved in it? Think about it. Every IP camera that we add is actually another small little web server that we're putting inside their network. The IT personnel are definitely going to want to be interested in that. Because it's changing to the IT guy, you need to get on board with modern IP camera systems. Do not go into an educational customer selling them a cookie cutter NVR or DVR solution that doesn't look like it would fit into a modern IP infrastructure. The IT guys now are looking for solutions that fit what they already have designed. The reason is because they do not want to increase their maintenance or their software maintenance cycles. They want to fit that in with what they already know. So find out what they use and fit in with that. Don't try to introduce a system that doesn't fit. Secondly, you need to understand that in education, most of their decisions are incident-driven. Something will happen in the news or something will happen on the campus, and suddenly there's budget available. I remember one example at a school district. They had a board meeting, and after the board meeting, one of the board directors fell down in the parking lot, and it took a while for anybody to notice that the board, one of the board members was injured in the parking lot. And so the poor lady was laying there for a while. Well, I had already done a bid on that parking lot, and I had already designed cameras that would have perfectly captured that scenario. Guess what? The next day, suddenly there was money available to put cameras in that parking lot. So just keep in mind that if you track and watch what's going on at school districts or in your local community, there'll be wonderful opportunities for you to pitch a solution to solve for a given incident. Because believe me, despite the grumblings that there's no money in education, you'd be surprised on what little pockets or pools of money are sitting there waiting for a rainy day or an incident to be dealt with. Finally, in order to sell into education, you need to understand that every sales decision needs to be based on funding that is available. You will never sell something to a school district unless you already have funding established. Why do I say this? Well, it's not easy. It's one thing to convince the customer that you're a good company. It's another thing to convince the customer that you have a good product. But it's an entire thing altogether to convince the customer not only do you have a good product and that you're a good company, but they have money to buy it. So one of your challenges to get into a school district is not just to convince them to buy your solution. That's actually the easy part. The hard part is to identify and secure funding for the project. And you need to be involved in this. Do not rely on your contact at the school district to be the one that comes up with the funding source. You need to aggressively help them find funding sources for your project. Every camera project I ever sold at a school district, and I've sold several, were always tied to funding sources that I helped find or I helped justify. These can be very creative. One creative thing I did is there was a community organization that was building a security system for their local community in order to reduce vandalism on their local shops and businesses. It just so happened that one of the school districts had a campus right there next to where this group of businesses were, and I believe that a lot of high school students were the ones responsible for the vandalism. By doing a unique collaboration, I came up with a solution, got the local businesses involved. They helped raise some of the funds. The police department brought in some budget. The school district brought in a little bit of extra funds, and by using those three organizations, we were able to fund a new security project that I was able to put in exclusively and sole source through my company. So you have to become very unique in your partnerships and how that works. All right, Kiko, I'm taking a break for just a second. Do we have any questions or comments or anything coming from the audience?
I don't see any comments. Nothing in the chat window.
All right, everybody, this is your cue. If you've got questions or concerns or want to know about something, now's your time to pipe in. So feel free to chat away and let Kiko know we have a question, so when I have these pauses, that I could provide you some questions. All right. I will do anything short of offering you money to ask questions. All right, so let's move on with Module 2. We're going to talk about video management systems. We're pretty much right on time with where I want to be. In a minute, we're going to take a break, and we're going to shift over to taking a look at some actual product. But before we do that, let's talk about some brief ideas about video management systems. When you're new to security, you're usually new to what is called a VMS, or Video Management Security System. In some situations, like a hospital environment, you'll be introduced to a term called PSIM, or basically a physical security information management system. But in most school districts, they're not that robust yet. That they want to deal just primarily with just video management. Although sometimes they'll want to deal with access control or other elements as well. I think I saw a question, Kiko, and I'm excited about that. Do you want to tell me what it was?
I don't see anything in the
Yeah, I saw a question. Let me look. I think he forgot. He chatted to me and not to you. So the question is, how would I find out about federal or state funding vehicles for school? So I can't answer this question on a national level very easily because it literally is driven by the state. So when the federal government releases funds, like through a Safe Schools grant, those grants almost always go to agencies within each state, and those agencies are responsible for distributing funds to qualified school districts. What you need to do is find out about those grant opportunities and then learn what state organizations are trying to apply for them. Usually one or more state organizations will win them, and then they will distribute those funds to the local school districts. The local school districts then have a responsibility for applying for those grants. The school district normally cannot get their head around it in time, and they usually miss out on the funds. So where you come in is you can help the school district write the grant proposal, develop the security system that will win the grant, and then help them pitch it to the organization that's won the federal funds. That's how you do it. And oftentimes the school district will want to use some public bid contract to do this on so they can sole source it through you. So you need to learn what some of the funding mechanisms are, and there's a variety of them. In California, we had an enterprising school district create a public funding vehicle and they listed a whole bunch of products through various organizations, through camera manufacturers, video management providers, and they listed all of them in their public bid contract. That way I could piggyback on those and offer the school district fair and discounted pricing. So just to repeat that, people gain federal and state funds through agencies that win grants. They then take those grants and they offer those grants to school districts. The school districts are then responsible for replying to those grants with an RFP. Most school districts are not sophisticated yet enough to actually write a competent response to an RFP. So this is really low-hanging fruit for somebody who really understands how this works, because if you can write a really competent proposal, you can partner with the educational facility to help obtain those funds. And they're usually very eager to help distribute those funds to you if you were the one that helped to obtain them. They usually will throw up something that they need to actually do this on a public bid. And they will usually do it a public bid, but usually you will win. You can usually get around the public bid process by finding an already bid public contract that has the products you want. Another way to get around it is, yes, indeed, have the school district go out to public bid, but have them go out to public bid on a closed source contract, meaning that there's not very many companies that can do the design that you created. So have them go out to bid looking for companies to qualify them. And then usually you'll be one of only a couple of people to respond. And I've never lost one of those. I've won them every time. And that's usually the way to secure yourself on a closed source contract. I usually push for a 3-year closed source contract if I can get it. And in a couple of districts I worked with, I had a 3-year closed source contract, which were great. They're awesome to have those. So fight for those. You may not always get them, but fight for them. Hopefully I answered your question. So next, why do we sell video management systems? By the way, let me just explain what they are. A video management system is a software package that runs on a server which collects the incoming video streams and stores them for later view. It also provides an interface for your end users to look at the video in real time and in recorded view. So that's the basic gist of what a video management system is. It also allows you to control and manage the cameras from a central location. The reason why these are critical, if you just go in selling a camera system, and oh, by the way, here's a way to view them, then you are not getting sticky with that account. If you go in and sell the cameras, what you're going to find out is there are literally 1 million camera manufacturers out there trying to sell cameras in education. However, there's only a handful of video management companies. So there's probably 5 or 6 video management companies that actually have a product worth a darn that they could sell to an education environment. And so out of that handful, you want to become an expert in 1 or 2 of them, and you want to get that secured in with the customer. Once the customer buys into video management, they're not going to go elsewhere. However, they will change camera manufacturers like crazy. I could never control the camera manufacturers. For example, I went into an educational customer, and I had a camera product that I thought fit perfect, and I had a great partnership going with the manufacturer. However, next thing I know, 2 or 3 other manufacturers are always coming in talking to the end user. And the end user is saying, hey, guy, I heard about this new whatever camera, this new 20-megapixel camera with 360-degree view and built-in infrared. I really like this camera, guy. Can I use this one? And I may or may not have had a partnership with that camera manufacturer. So that really caught me into a bind. So I would recommend always focusing on video management. Video management is what the customer is not going to change. They'll change their cameras, but they won't change their VMS very often because it's too expensive to change it. Also, VMS builds in licensing models that allow you to provide renewable licensing to the customer once a year. It also establishes you as the complete expert of the system. So whenever you start talking to the customer, you're talking to the customer. I just realized I'm not showing my video. That's really lame. All right, there we go. Now you can see me. When you talk to the customer, you want to talk to them about video management because every time you go there, they're going to see the video management interface with all their cameras, and they're going to have all these little problem points. Oh, hey, guy, I noticed that camera over by the boys' locker room is fuzzy. Can you fix that? Sure, no problem, Mr. Customer. Oh, hey, guy, I noticed we have a dead spot over there by the concession stand, and there's some kids trying to sell some illegal drugs over there. Could you maybe put a camera there? Hey, no problem, Mr. Customer. You see, the video management system is always dictating the conversation. In addition, because I'm selling renewable licenses or support contracts, I'm able to get in there and every year have a conversation about licensing, renewals, what their growth plans are, how many more projects coming up down the pipe, that sort of thing. In addition, whenever they go to add a new construction project, like let's say they add a new high school, and it's going to be 100 cameras. And let's say you're not quite at the point yet where you can bond a 100-camera job. By the way, you know, a 100-camera job is probably going to cost around $400,000 to $500,000. So you would probably have to be bonded at $500,000 or more in order to accomplish that type of project. So let's say you're not at a $500,000 or $1 million bond yet. So because you're not able to bond that project, you still want a piece of it, right? Well, in this case, if they bring on a new high school, you can say, hey, Mr. Customer, don't include the video management licenses and the video management system into the general contractor's bid instructions. Because if you do, then you have no guarantee you're going to get your VMS, right? Because we want a centralized, consolidated VMS. So this is a great argument to make to the superintendent where it says, hey, Mr. Superintendent, you need to remove the video management system out from this construction project and give it over to our sole source contractor, and let's just sell the cameras as part of this. That way, even though if you're not able to get a piece of the cameras or the cabling or the conduit and all that kind of stuff, the stuff that you can't handle, you're still keeping the video management system. So always remember the video management system keeps you in the account. Finally, video management systems are a great way to get honed in on the actual people that make the decisions in the district. And I don't know, I don't want to use the word insidious, but okay, I'll use the word insidious. when I would get into a school district, I was like a little worm, right? And so one of my goals was, when I sold a video management system, I wanted to make sure that the video management system was up front and center on all key district personnel. So when I sold this system, I made a big deal about it with the IT guy. Look, we need to get the video management system on the superintendent's desk so he can look at the lunchtime goings-on in the courtyard. Every superintendent I've ever met always is interested in what's going on in the courtyard, or what's going on in the hallway where the counselors meet, or some issue they're dealing with. Or the librarian wants to know what's going on in their library. So every one of these decision makers has an area of concern. So what I would do is install the video management system, the client interface, on their desktop in their office, and then I would show them how to connect to and view the cameras that were of concern. And boy, they were like kids in a candy store. They were just so interested in how they could see things and catch little Johnny doing something he wasn't supposed to do or whatnot. And so basically, by doing this, I established a relationship now with the decision maker. You wouldn't believe how many times I won opportunity. In fact, my biggest project was like a $2 million project. And I won it because one day I was in there showing the superintendent how to get his video management system installed on his computer. And while I was in there, he mentioned, oh, I have a bond measure coming up, and I was thinking about putting in for some security cameras at our elementary schools. What do you think about that? And I'm like, hey, that's a great idea. In fact, you know what? Why don't you have me design that for you at no charge? As long as you give me a fair shake at the bid, I'll do it at no charge. And he goes, would you do that? I'm like, absolutely, I would do that. So I spec'd out the entire bid for this $2 million project, and all I asked for in return was a fair shake at the bid. Well, guess who won the bid, right? I won the bid, and nonetheless, I ended up doing the project. And it was all because of that meeting I had sitting over the superintendent's desk talking about the video management system and really getting involved with them that way. Okay. Anyway, there you go. So video management system, if you don't know, is what you talk about. Do not go into the customer, especially an educational customer, and on day one start talking about the merits of the camera. Bad. Don't go in on day one and talk about the merits of your infrastructure and whether or not they got the right switches, the right cabling. Bad. Day one, you start talking about video management because you work top down, right? You go from the top, the video management, the problem, and the solution, and then you work your way through the components. The customer may want to talk about megapixel, pan-tilt zoom, infrared, lighting concerns, all of that. Steer them always back to video management system. And the way you do it is you say, hey, you know what? There's a lot of great PTZ cameras on the market, but you don't want to select the wrong PTZ camera that won't work with your ultimate video management system. Let's first pick the video management system, then we can decide what compatible cameras we're going to use, right? Because I've been burned by this. Customer goes out and buys a PTZ camera or recommends a PTZ camera, or some organization comes in and convinces the customer this is the greatest PTZ camera ever. They buy it, or they put it in their general contractor's bid instructions, and they end up getting 15 of these PTZ cameras, and then I'm the one that has to break it to the customer. Oh, Mr. Customer, PTZ camera doesn't work yet with your VMS, and then they get all bent out of shape and upset about it. So start with the VMS. All right, moving on. Hardware considerations. And feel free to ask questions in this discussion because lots of people have questions about hardware. And so I'll dive in with you. First off, I noticed that we had a question from a member of the audience, Kiko. I don't know if you saw that. You might want to ask Mr. Peterson there what his question was.
Okay, yeah, it's still not coming up in my chat.
I think it's because he used the Q&A window.
Oh, Q&A. Okay, hang on.
Yeah, sometimes people accidentally use the Q&A window. So take a look at the Q&A window and see if he accidentally...
I apologize. I had the chat window up. I didn't...
No, they should use the chat window, but sometimes people don't understand it, they use the Q&A window instead. So just make sure you.
Okay, so we have a few questions. I see Tim Hayes asked a question. Did you address the question from Frederick McKnight?
No, I didn't. But go ahead, ask him right now. Let's take a break and ask the question.
So we have two questions. Frederick McKnight asks, is there any extra benefits as a veteran when it comes to getting any of these grants?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So especially if you're a disabled veteran. If you're a disabled veteran, you could basically get checks written to you for free. I mean, there's especially in large markets like California where there's a lot of construction going on. Most of these organizations are required by state law in California, for example, and all states are like this. They are required to have a certain percentage of their work done by disabled veterans, minority-owned or women-owned businesses. So every one of them are like this. Now, you can't bid these directly. You'll never do it. You're too small. But, and I'm saying that because I know you, Fred, so you're too small. But what you need to do is set yourself up as a legitimate contractor. Go past your become a structured cabling contractor. It's not that hard. Go take the test. It's pretty easy. After you become a structured cabling contractor, get a small bond, like a 10 grand bond. It's pretty cheap to buy that. Third step, go form an LLC, an official LLC organization. Once you've done that, you can now go to your state, whichever state you live in, and Fred, you're in California. So you would go to California, you would register as a DVBE, a disabled veterans business. Once you've done that, your sole goal in life is to call every contractor in your community that does general contractor bid work and just let them know that you are a disabled veteran with a legitimate bond, you are an LLC, and that you are registered with the state. And they will let you bid camera projects until you can't even stand it anymore, because they cannot find enough. In fact, a lot of them have to create companies, hire some disabled veteran, create a company, put the disabled veteran in the company just to be able to win bids because they need a DVBE. So I would highly recommend you go down that road. So school districts, every school district project, if it's bond-based, is what we call a public works project. And because it's public works, you have to meet the public works rules. And one of those rules is a certain percentage of them have to be done by minority-owned, small business, disabled veteran-owned businesses. And so every one of these contractors wants to win an extra 2 or 3 points. See, what happens is they bid the project. Let's say contractor A bids it at 100 grand. Contractor B bids it at 95 grand. Well, contractor A, if they have DVBE status, gets like 10 points favorite. So even though they were 5 points higher, they get a 10% offload off on that bid, so they get more points on their bid presentation, and they're more likely to win when they're a DVBE. So they're hungry for this all throughout the state, and it just doesn't start with education. Every public utility who uses public funds, public taxpayer dollars that you pay on your public utility, everybody who pays taxes to a public utility, all those projects are public works projects. Therefore, every one of them have DVBE requirements. So great question, Fred, and I know I took a long time to answer that, but you asked, so it's a great way to get into the customer. Kiko, is there another question?
Yes, Tim Hayes asked a question regarding alarm companies, but I think given the topic, maybe you can consult with him after the class.
What was the exact question? Because it may be pertinent.
Okay, so what recommendations do you have in competing with alarm companies?
So that is a great question. No, that's a great question, because your number one source of competition is going to be the organization that sells the alarm system to your school district. So let me give you an example, and hopefully nobody from Stanley's on the phone, but Stanley is a great example. Stanley is a nationwide security contractor, and they're a pretty good company, and they are very popular in schools. So, and they're not the only one. There's many others, but I'll just pick on them. Now they have they have an in, right? They can have their salespeople. They have an open door conversation with the school. They can come and say, "Hey, what are you doing about cameras?" and they are always winning camera projects because of this. My recommendation to you is to not fight them. You're never going to beat Stanley. Instead, partner with Stanley or organizations like them in your community. They do not have IP surveillance expertise, or if they have it, it's spread out. They don't have enough people to do all the projects. So partner with them. I did it. I work with Stanley all the time. Together, we won more bids than we lost. So my recommendation to you, don't fight the big national alarm contractor. Work with them. Secondly, you're going to get a lot of small-time alarm operators that will try to sell some IP camera system, and they're a joke. All you need to do is get the IT guy in there with you, do a big demonstration of your video management system to the IT guy with the superintendent in the room, and you will chase out these alarm contractors like crazy. And whenever they do a bid, make sure the bid specifies a video management system, and you've immediately chased out all the ADP dealers and all the other dealers like that in the country. So you got all these little, like ADP dealers that sell these camera systems, sometimes to schools. But the second you get in there and start talking about video management system, that kills that, because they just don't have a video management system worth a darn. What other question do we have?
That was it. Tim, will you let me know if that answered your question?
Yeah, Tim's got a good point, though. You cannot abandon fire, life safety, and alarm. Most of the larger contractors that win security deals commonly have 3 practices. They have fire, life safety, they have burglar and access control, and then they have IP cameras. So they really have 3 practices. You're not, I'm assuming that a lot of you on this call are not that big yet. Those of you who are maybe getting bigger may want to consider adding those practices because they're definitely complementary. But I would definitely work on partnering. I have a lot of fire and life safety companies that still call me asking for advice on IP surveillance systems because I work with them all the time. Fire alarm companies are a gold mine. Fire life safety companies are a gold mine because they're always in front of the customer, and they normally don't deal with IP surveillance. If they do, they dabble. So don't think that just because the fire and life safety guys are in the educational account that they're unwilling to work with you on an IP surveillance system or introduce it to your customer. So those are ripe opportunities for great partnerships with fire life safety. And by the way, fire and life safety companies are normally involved during construction. The smart ones get involved after to do maintenance on the fire system. Those are the ones you want to partner with because they're constantly talking to the customer. You don't want to partner with the guys that come in and just slam in systems and leave. You want the ones that have the vision of maintenance dollars. Those are the ones that you want to partner with, or at least in my experience. So Tim privately messaged me, and that was a great point. You definitely cannot ignore fire, life safety, and burglar. All right, let's talk about hardware considerations. When you build an IP surveillance system, by the way, this course was sponsored by Toshiba, and they have some pre-built solutions for this, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But putting that aside, my goal here is to teach you how to best target education. You definitely want to target education with an open system platform. You do not want to try to pigeonhole yourself into one platform over another, because you will get school districts that will not buy anything else other than Dell, or they will not buy anything else other than HP or IBM. Do not fight against it. If they want Dell, then okay, you got Dell. And then figure out a video management system that will apply. You always want to have at least 1 or 2 systems in your tool belt, because you do not want to pigeonhole yourself into one or another. Even though it's good for business practices to know one system over another, I would recommend that you learn at least 2. The first would be your open systems one, software you just install on the customer's equipment. And then the second would be a closed system that's maybe an all-in-one solution like this Toshiba product I'm going to share with you. That way, if you have a customer that doesn't care, then you'll make more margins on a closed system. So sell the closed system, one that you have total control over. That's great. But if you have a customer that cares, they're like, no way are you going to sell that vanilla-looking super micro box in my IT closet, then don't fight it. Go with what they want, and that's where you interject your video management system that will run on a Dell or an HP platform. So definitely you want to consider that. So whether you're doing a closed system or whether you're doing an open system, the question's just still the same. You need to make sure you have enough compute power on that system to handle a few aspects. Now, I go into greater detail in this on the online course, but just to give you an idea, when video streams come in from cameras, 9 times out of 10, we're now dealing with H.264, which is a compression algorithm that's based on the MPEG standard, and it actually compresses the video significantly, so much so that it reduces our storage dramatically. So most people will edge towards H.264. Well, whenever you reduce one thing, in this case we reduce storage, we increase another. So in this case, we increase the compute requirements of your central box. So if, and here's how it works. The camera encodes with H.264 and sends the string to your video management system. The video management system can either store that in raw format, in H.264 compressed, or it can go ahead and transcode it and store it in another format. Most video management systems will go ahead and transcode it, will go ahead and keep it in its raw compressed format. And then what will happen is when the video management client connects to the system, downloads that video, the client at the workstation will perform all of the work of the H.264 transcode. So that's most systems work that way. However, this is very key. If you provide your customers with mobile clients, like on a cell phone or a tablet or something like that, or a web viewer, those typically do not do transcode at the client side. They do transcode at the server side. So you got to be very watchful of your CPU resources when you have a lot of remote or mobile users. And in the educational environment, remote and mobile users are very common. Security guards are roaming around. They love the phone thing. You have a lot of web viewers where they view it on the website. So you got to be very careful about H.264 CPU impact when dealing with remote users. In testing, the system may work great with 100 cameras, but you add 5 or 6 mobile users and suddenly your CPU resources are through the roof and it's not working. So be very mindful of that. By the way, most larger environments, you don't even want to consider anything less than a Xeon processor. However, in smaller environments, the i7 chip from Intel is very common because it does handle these transcode operations pretty efficiently. And so you'll see that as a trend when you buy an appliance, like the Toshiba appliance I'm going to talk about. That has an i7 processor embedded in it. And the reason is because it offloads a lot of those transcode operations. Storage. We panic about storage because we think about video and storage. And storage is a big deal. So you definitely need to make sure you have enough storage. There's a lot of storage calculators out there that you can buy. Everybody has one. Toshiba has one. All your major VMS partners have one. There's even some freebies out there you can download on the internet that have disk storage calculators based on incoming camera streams. Make sure you estimate high. It always ends up going high. The number one, there's 2 big things you can do to reduce your storage impact. Number 1 is use H.264, which I already talked about. Number 2, make sure that you control recording based on events, like motion. So if you after you deploy the camera system, you've got to go in there and tweak it. Good example, I just got done consulting on a project a while ago for a giant mall project. And although I recommended tweaking based on motion, nobody took me to heart. What ended up happening is after the solution was implemented, they came after me saying, hey, the system you recommend sucks. It's already ran out of video. Well, I logged into the system and I noticed nobody had bothered to even consider recording only on motion. So you can imagine 24/7 video being recorded by every one of these 300 cameras. No wonder the disks are going to fill. So you got to go in, you got to tweak based recording on motion. Every video management system has this capability, and you need to take advantage of it. Most of you will gravitate toward direct attached storage when dealing with the video management system. This should be your staple, direct attached storage. It's cheap, it's easy to implement, and you don't have to do a lot of messing around. Some customers will insist on a SAN. A lot of educational customers are still stuck in the iSCSI SAN days. That's okay. There's a lot of iSCSI SAN products on the market that you can take advantage of. But your bread and butter should be direct attached storage unless the customer insists on a SAN. Sometimes a customer has a virtualization infrastructure that's already in place and they would like you to use it. Just be very careful that you test out and make sure that you have the correct number of IOPS, input outputs per second, coming from that SAN to accommodate video being written all the time. A lot of storage manufacturers will overlook this type of steady write operation, and you absolutely need to understand that this is random 100% write I/O coming into the storage system. So be very careful when somebody recommends that you use an existing storage appliance. Absolutely make sure you work with the manufacturer of that appliance to make sure that it has enough write I/O. In addition, most video management systems will copy video over to an archive. If they do that type of operation, this is a double whammy. Not only you have the incoming writes, but now you have a copy operation that occurs every 4 hours, or every 2 hours, or every 12 hours, whenever the archive is occurring. So be very careful that you consider both the write I/O and copy operations for archiving. Network. Network infrastructure is where it gets real political. I don't know why, but in education, this is like you're Republican or Democrat kind of thing, right? You're either Cisco or you're HP or you're name the switch manufacturer. So and they get very religious about this. I mean, it's nuts. So be very careful recommending switch infrastructure that's not what they have. They've bought into this convergence story, usually sold by Cisco pretty heavily. And so consequently, do not go in recommending other switch devices. Recommend expansions to what they have. Normally, you need to go in and investigate their switch infrastructure. The big thing is switch capabilities. By the way, quality of service is not that big a deal anymore because switch infrastructure has improved so much dramatically, but VLANing is a big deal. So being able to separate the security from the network is a big deal. So make sure that you have that capability, and make sure the VLANs extend all the way to the edge device and not just at the core switches. In addition, you want to make sure that they power over Ethernet as possible. Most cameras are powered over Ethernet. So you want to make sure that you have enough PoE ports. You want to make sure the switches have enough power to power those PoE ports. And you want to make sure that at the distribution facility where the camera's cable will come, that there's ports available there. So those are most of your considerations when it comes to network infrastructure. All right, do we have any questions about hardware infrastructure? Well, you got me closed audience here. Ask away if you have any questions. Kiko, any questions pop up?
No, no new questions, but feel free to put it in the Q&A pane if you guys have any.
Q&A or chat. There you go. All right. So now we're going to take a brief pause. This would be a great time to formulate some questions because I'm going to flip my video and audio source. So just give me a minute because I'm going to demonstrate a product here real quick. So I'm going to flip my video sources. So great time to formulate questions if you have them. And Kiko, I'm now flipping over to another audio source. So the audio is going to get a little bit not as good as it is right now. So bear with us while we flip audio sources. How's my audio, Kiko?
That's okay.
All right, so the audio is not going to be good just for a few minutes. I just zoomed the camera in on this NVS Pro 8. This is Toshiba's NVS Pro 8 appliance. This is a good example of your bread and butter type of appliance you would install in an education environment. Let me zoom my camera out just a little bit. All right, there we go. All right, so this right here, if you can see this, is the NVS Pro 8. Now, whether you use Toshiba or you use another manufacturer, I'll say IBM, Dell, HP, or one of the many security companies out there, all have appliances like this. This is no exception. This appliance basically has an i7 processor in it. Most of them will either have an i7 or a Xeon E5 chip in it. And most of them will have some storage capacity built in. This particular one is built on the Supermicro platform. And so this one has 8 disk drives. So you can put 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte SATA drives in the front, and you can accommodate disk count. Now be very careful using too few of SATA drives. It's better to err on the side of caution by adding a lot of SATA drives than it is to add fewer. So you don't want to add 1 or 2 3 terabyte drives. You want to add a whole bunch of 1 terabyte drives because you want as much performance I/O as possible out of those disks. In addition, make sure that if you ever build your own, do not skimp on the controller. Every one of these boxes is going to have a controller capable of handling write I/O and with battery-backed write cache. So that's very super critical to make sure that your controller operations don't fail you. So this is what the Toshiba box looks like. I've done a lot more in-depth videos on this product on the online course. You're welcome to take a look at it. I'm not going to belabor the point now. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to flip over and I'm going to show you what the interface looks like on this product. So give me just 1 second. Feel free to post questions while I'm doing this. All right, Kiko, hopefully we can, it looks like we can all see the screen. So when you boot up the Toshiba Surveillance product, and this is very common in the security business, I just want to let you know, most video management systems will either run on Windows Server, will either run on a Windows Server, or will run on Windows 7. Nobody's been brave enough to run it on Windows 8. I certainly wouldn't be. So anyway, so in this case, this is Windows 7 embedded. You want to know why Toshiba uses Windows 7 embedded? I'll give you a hint. It's cheap. So this is why they have Windows 7 embedded. It's a pretty stable operating system. I think we all liked Windows 7 compared to Windows 8. But you'll notice here that you have, this is the Surveillance Windows 7. Now, when you log on, they give you an administrator account, you log on, and then you are able to run the Surveillance server software, which is this icon right here. Now, right now, I'm not recording any video on the system, and no remote users can occur, because Surveillance doesn't work as a Windows service. You actually have to have this running on the local machine in order for any video to be recorded or any remote access to be able to occur. So in this case, I'm going to go and double click on that, and now I'm launching into the Surveillance server software, and you're going to see what it looks like here in a second. And this is what we refer to as a closed system. Toshiba has their own product, their own appliance, their own software, all built in. However, there is a little bit of switch on that. Most manufacturers of these products are starting to lean towards open standards, which is great news for us. Toshiba actually now supports adding other cameras to this product besides Toshiba cameras. So you can now add Axis cameras or Bosch cameras or whatever. You can add them into here now as well, as long as they support the ONVIF standard, which is an open standard for camera drivers. So you now are able to add cameras. Well, here you're seeing a basic video management system interface, which is why I wanted to show you this. Most video management software will have some capacity to show one or more cameras in some sort of grid view. And they may allow you to rotate through them or off and on and various other things like that. Some of them will have pan, tilt, zoom controls. For example, if I click PTZ here, I'm going to log on as an account that has the permissions to do this. And I can click on PTZ controls, and now I can go to a camera, and now I can zoom around that camera. Maybe if this is a PTZ camera, I may have picked the wrong camera. Yeah, I picked the wrong camera. So, but anyway, we can now click on a particular camera, and we can pan tilt zoom that camera around with our pan tilt zoom camera. So this one's a little out of focus. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. It's going to be hard to see this through a WebEx, through a remote desktop sharing session all at the same time. Just take my advice. It's panning. All right. But anyway, so you have different type of pan, tilt, zoom controls, things like that. Almost every video management system like this one is going to have some capacity to manage the camera devices, specifically being able to add cameras. So in this case, the Toshiba utility has the ability for me to find cameras and for me to auto look for all the cameras on a particular network. In this case, it found a whole bunch of Toshiba cameras, but it also found one of my Axis cameras that are up in my network as well. You can also have it bring in audio, one-way or two-way audio, and I can set it up to be a PTZ camera, widescreen if it's using a 1080p or greater type of configuration. The NVS Pro package that I'm showing you requires licensing. And this is an important consideration. Every video management that you would select, every video management that you would ever buy, whether it's Toshiba or any other video management, is going to require software licensing. Now, this video management comes with 8 licenses out the gate. But you can buy more licenses and apply them to add more cameras. Every video management system is going to have some sort of licensing management process that you need to become aware of. The big deal, though, is being able to control cameras based on things like motion and on events. As you can see here, I can set up very quickly. I've set up on this particular camera, if motion occurs over here to the left or over here to the right, I can go ahead and have that motion do something, such as trigger an alarm, trigger a recording event, something like that. Most video management systems do this via a schedule. So as you can see here, the Toshiba camera has a schedule. And here's today. And right now I'm only recording on motion for all of today. I have the choice of recording on continuous. I have also the choice of recording on sensor. Every camera has some sort of sensor on it. Let me show you. So I'm going to so zooming in here, I'm going to walk over there and I'll show you on the back of that PTZ camera a couple of things you might see. So this is the back of the PTZ camera, and as you can see, there are triggers right here, little open-close relays that will open in or close in and cause an event to occur on this camera. That is called a sensor in the Toshiba software. Other cameras like this one here have it built right on the back of the camera. You can see this little green block right there where we can put in and open and close. Almost every camera has that type of feature. So that just gives you an idea of what to look for. These are called sensors, and usually what we do is we tie those sensors back in with like a door contact, or we tie it in with an alarm system or something along those lines. All right, so that's the Toshiba interface. You've got a lot of administrative features such as adding users, giving them permission to different things, stuff like that. The other thing to deal with is the ability to give people the right to log on remotely, which is a big deal in education. Every VMS that I've ever considered always has some ability to monitor or manage cameras remotely, so I can put that software on somebody's desktop. So, and normally you have some methodology of adding that somewhere in the system. So, every one of them has that ability. Now, I've went ahead of time, and I've turned on the ability to remotely manage this system. So now I'm going to show you how that works. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in wrong website. The first thing is Toshiba has this software called Remote Viewer. Now, I'll have to be honest with you, the software isn't written all that great. But most video management softwares will have some lightweight client, or in some cases not so lightweight of a client, that you can run. Now, this one works pretty good once you get it set up. It's a little difficult to get set up. But once you're there, you can connect to your remote video management appliance, which I'm doing right now. And I'm going to click Connect. And now I'm connected to it, and now I can remote control my cameras. This is the type of thing that you want sitting on somebody's desk so they can monitor and manage cameras. Now, I'm viewing this in a full grid mode. More sensible would be something like this, where you can view the cameras that are of particular concern to that user. They also have their PTZ controls. The user also can search through video events. So they can click on the search button, and they can pick hour, minute, reverse playback through, and they can slowly advance or quickly advance through all of their video through past things that have been recorded. So you can select the camera and go back and view all the cameras that might be there. Toshiba actually has a pretty good interface to actually view video graphically. When I open up this graphic search, I can click on events where they occurred, right, on different camera interfaces. So you can see here, boy, something was happening in my lab last night. Look at this. My fans turned on last night, see? So this camera captured at night that fan starting to turn on, and that happened at 2:20 a.m. Notice, though, also while we're here, this was pitch black, by the way. This particular camera, without infrared enabled, this camera, look how much light it is able to capture in the absolute pitch black environment. That's because this particular camera has a feature that we call wide dynamic range, which gives this camera the ability to grab almost imperceptible light sources and use to enhance the image. And that's what we're getting right here. So this is a nice way to show that. But I really love this graphic search. You also have the ability to do an index search, where I can index all motion events and then look at those. And then you can also do a preview search like this, where I can simply scan through by reversing or playing through fast or slow. But I always find the graphic search to be the best way to do it. So that's how you view the video this way. This is through the remote client. Almost every video management system that I've seen also has a web viewer. So I'll just show you that, and then we'll conclude this. I'm not going to... Oh, by the way, another little tidbit about Toshiba. Nothing, and I repeat, nothing works in Toshiba unless it is in Internet Explorer. And it also has to be running in Internet Explorer in browser compatibility mode of IE 9 or less. So if you hit F12, make sure your browser mode on your Internet Explorer is IE 9 or less, or forget it, it ain't going to work. So this is the example of the, notice I've just gone to the IP address of my appliance, and now I've loaded the software. I'm going to click Go. I'm going to log on. And now I'm viewing the cameras in the web viewer. And now I don't have as much control like search features in the web viewer. I also don't have a lot of pan tilt zoom controls in the web viewer, but I'm now able to view the cameras. I can double click on them. This is great for people that want to go from home or really quickly look at the video through the web. So this is basically the web viewer, and here's me, hi. And it's delayed because we're looking this over a WebEx session. So there you go. That's how you grab access to a video management system. So I wanted to show you a basic video management system and how it worked, and I want to show you some of the top features that you need to recognize when selling into an education environment, and that's how we did that. All right, we're ready to move on to module 3, which is cameras and infrastructure. Pause and handle any questions, Kiko. Any?
Hey, Guy, yeah, real quick, you know, your last couple minutes. Oh, I'm echoing. Your audio.
Oh, you're echoing?
A little spotty. Yeah, I was echoing.
All right, let me fix that. I have a way to fix that. Hold on. The reason is because I'm showing too much video on the. So let me fix that. All right.
Okay, I don't see any new questions.
Okay. Okay, my audio should improve significantly now.
Okay.
I was using the lapel mic so I could wander around, but now I'm using the other mic. Okay, so we're better now. So hopefully everybody can hear me and our audio is good. So let's go ahead and continue on. We're now into module 3, which is cameras and infrastructure. So so let's talk about camera types and mounting styles. So whenever you do a job walk or whenever you're talking to a customer, by the way, it is extremely easy to get overwhelmed. It is very easy to get overwhelmed by all the camera available options out there. I mean, you can just ask Kiko or I, on our line card alone, there's probably 300 camera types. I mean, it's just crazy. So you've got all these different types of cameras out there and all these different types of features. You should not get bogged down in that, because bottom line is it doesn't matter. As long as the camera is able to capture a clean, clear view of what will solve the customer's business problem, that's all you need to worry about. So I would recommend focusing on 3 major styles, and I've listed them here. In fact, while I'm talking about this, I'm going to flip over and show you up close and personal 3 of those camera styles. So here I'm zoomed in a little bit. You can see here outlaid on my table here are several camera styles. The one on the right, by the way, is a small little PTZ guy. Don't ever sell that in an education environment unless it's like in an interior office or something. It just will not work that well, and the PTZ motor will break too quickly. Those are more for like home office, small home office type of environments. I put it out there just so you could see what one looks like. But the real ones you're looking at, the first 2 up in the front, those are what we call dome cameras. One is an interior dome camera, and one is an exterior kind of vandal-resistant dome camera. The interior outdoor fixed dome cameras are your bread and butter when it comes to physical security installations in schools. These cameras will go everywhere. They are usually very low priced. In fact, the Toshiba cameras here are really low priced, and you will find that you can put them almost anywhere. I would rather have 3 of those than one really nice camera. The one on the far left is a really low cost camera. pretty well feature packed for what it is. And then the one in the middle is probably their best camera. That's the WD-14A camera, and that camera is a 1080p fixed dome camera with infrared built right into it. It does two-way audio, and it's completely flexible on how you fix and mount and move it around. I would say that camera is pretty powerful. On the online course, I've done a real intensive deep dive on that camera because it's one of the best cameras they have. But it gives you an idea of the type of cameras that are out there. Regardless of the manufacturer that you ultimately pick for your school, you will find cameras like this one because they're such a versatile, easy-to-use, easy-to-install camera. Most of these cameras come with quick mounting styles for drop ceilings. They can also be mounted flush on a wall or on a ceiling. So they have all sorts of different ways to mount them. And all they require is a single UTP cable coming from a PoE network switch, and that's all you need to get them to work. Real easy and clean way to install. The other type of camera that is common are megapixel or usually 720p or greater, 720p, 1080p, or even further megapixel cameras that look like these bullet-style cameras. So in that video camera, you'll see two bullet-style cameras that are kind of in a canister. Those two cameras are fixed cameras. They usually will mount to the side of a wall or a building, and they are used to focus in on some key critical traffic area that is concerning to the school district. On an outdoor install, I put a lot of those cameras in. They usually have to get mounted high because they're usually a vandalism target. So you got to make sure that you either mount them in a way where they can't be reached, or you're mounting them in some sort of cage or a way to where they cannot be touched or vandalized. But those, by the way, when you buy these cameras, be careful. A lot of times they do not come with a mount. So these particular cameras come that way in the box, and there is no mount that comes with them. You would have to buy a separate mount to go with those. All of the cameras that yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, we have a question that came up.
Sure, go ahead.
So Ed Hyde would like to know, do any of these VMSs allow parents to view a video stream from home, or do schools allow this?
Okay, so every time I've done this, usually the school district does not want to burn CPU cycles on web-based monitoring. So they don't want to give a web-based client to some remote person because that's going to, as I explained to you before, burn CPU cycles. You can imagine 3,000 kids, we could have 3,000 parents logging on to view their kids all day long. That'd be crazy. Instead, what we do is what we call real-time streaming protocol, RTSP. So every camera, and in fact, let me show you this. Are you able to see my little whiteboard thing, Kiko?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yes, I see it. Yeah.
Okay, so basically every camera, this is outside of the VMS, by the way, but every camera, and here's my great illustrious-looking camera. Every camera has feeds that go out, and most of them, you know, they can feed via HTTP. They can feed via TCP. And basically the video management server, the VMS, learns to pick those feeds up and then record them to disk, right? But cameras also have built into them usually an RTSP, real-time streaming protocol mechanism built into it. Every camera, in fact, all the cameras you see behind me, all of these cameras behind me all have RTSP mechanism. So, and you can experiment with this by using VLC Media Player. So go on the internet and download VLC Media Player. VLC Media Player allows you to connect to and view the real-time streaming protocol. So what people do is they usually take a real-time streaming protocol coming straight from a camera and they publish it online via a website or some mechanism like that. That way the parents worried about little Johnny can log onto the website and they can view the real-time streaming protocol, usually 2 or 3 seconds delayed, and they can see it being displayed at home. This way you're not consuming a license or CPU cycles on the VMS. Hopefully that answers the question, Ed. But definitely something I've done before. Same thing comes up with police departments. A lot of time the PD want to view cameras as well, so you have to come up with creative ways to do that in addition. Okay, your final camera that is in the video that you see right here is the PTZ camera that you see, and I will hold it up. So that's the PTZ camera. Most modern-day PTZ cameras are coming in self-enclosed domes. And what's even more beautiful about these is they come with a high power. They usually can be powered with power over Ethernet, meaning they require no external power. This particular one does not have a heater blower mechanism in it, but if they did, you might require additional power. But this particular one, especially in mild climates, is perfect because this one only requires a high power over Ethernet injector. In addition, you have to come up with a different mounting styles. I'm going to get up and show you one type of mounting style, which is a wall mount, wall mount bracket. The wall mount bracket has to be purchased separately. And in addition, I will also hold up the high power over Ethernet injector, which also has to be purchased separately. I'll show you those right now. This is the wall mount, corner mount adapter. And this right here is the high power over Ethernet injector, which completely powers this camera. All right, so that's basically, the beauty about these PTZ cameras is they're extremely feature rich. They have a lot of features such as guard tours, they can trigger on motion, they can follow people, they have real advanced features where you can do presets where it'll automatically go to something based on user instruction. It also, when working with usually what I would do is I'd put a pan-tilt zoom camera. I would put a pan-tilt zoom camera right next to a fixed megapixel camera. So those two working in tandem are a great team. The pan-tilt zoom camera allows me to view all these little areas in a courtyard or in a parking lot, and the fixed camera zooms on the overall area. So when the fixed camera sees motion or sees some event occurred, the pan-tilt zoom camera can then be triggered to do something. So this combination of pan-tilt zoom with fixed is a combination that we use frequently at school districts. This way, I can cover an entire courtyard or an entire parking lot or an entire playground or an entire soccer field with two cameras. One really powerful PTZ camera like the one I just showed you, and one really good solid fixed megapixel camera. All right, that concludes the cameras types and mounting styles. I will pause for a minute if there's any other questions.
No questions here.
All right, so moving on. Next thing is every camera, and I'm just going to give you a quick demo of this. Every camera, by the way, that you look at has some mechanism. And let me bring this up real quick. There we go. It has some mechanism to manage the camera. Every one of these web cameras is basically, every one of these IP cameras is basically a little web server running with the version of Linux or something on it.
Guy, your audio is really breaking up. I think the last minute or so, nothing came through.
Actually, maybe because you're cutting that work. If somebody chat, anybody want to chat us back to the chat screen? The audio coming through. Audio is pretty choppy. It's coming from because of the Copy. Do you have a second complaint? No, it sounds like I'm getting everybody's responding. They can hear pretty good. I think you're end. I can see audio on your side now. At least everybody's telling me. Or nope, somebody is telling me that it's pretty choppy. Never mind. I checked it. Yeah, the audio is pretty bad. Hold on. All right, I'm bringing the audio back. How's it going now, Kiko? Can you hear me?
Much better.
All right, so I made an adjustment. Sorry about that. I'm trying to do too much with one WebEx session. All right, so I think we've improved. I was trying to do way too much with one poor little WebEx. So I've stretched the limits of my capacity trying to show all these different camera feeds. So I've limited myself now to just one camera feed. So let's see how that goes. All right, and also I noticed I speak a little slower. It tends to go better. So hopefully everybody can see my monitor. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a sample. In fact, I had a couple of questions. Somebody asked me if this stuff is going to be available online. And the question is, it is. Everything I'm talking about, I've done in great detail in the online 201 course you can take at physicalsecurityU.com. All right, so now we are going to take a look at one of the cameras. This is, I consider, one of Toshiba's leading cameras. And this is the WD-14A camera. As you can see here, the camera gives you a live view, but importantly, every one of these cameras has basically a little server running on them, and you're able to see that. Now, I just got a question from Ellen about 180-degree cameras. So, and I'm going to click on the configuration tab so I can get out of this live motion video, because we're going to go to this configuration tab in a minute. So, the question from Ellen's a good one about 180-degree cameras. This is a big selling point. A lot of people go in selling 180-degree cameras. You got to watch out for a couple things. Number one, most 180-degree cameras are actually mini imagers in one device. So they'll sell a camera with multiple imagers in them, which is not a bad way to go. Just keep in mind that thing's going to consume multiple licenses, and also it may not run very well. It could overheat because you got multiple imagers in the unit. So you just got to be careful. So when you do select a 180-degree camera, make sure you're selecting a really good one. Some of them, instead of putting multiple images in there, will put a very large imager, maybe a very large megapixel sensor in there. And then what they'll do is they'll put a lens on it that maybe is a fisheye lens or a very wide-angle lens. And that's how they'll accomplish as close to 180 degrees as they can. So they'll accomplish that in some other way. Some customers may like the way that looks, and it may fit. I have not found that working in education very well, unless maybe they had a store. Like sometimes they'll have a student store, and in the student store they'll want an overall view of the entire store. Then that may work. But generally, I found that putting in 2 or 3 smaller cameras, is better. You just got to be very careful. You've got a lot of manufacturers out there that are selling a 180-degree multi-megapixel camera with multiple imagers in it now. Just be very careful. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. And when I get into a school district, I'm going after the maintenance contract, like aggressively. I usually am selling a guaranteed maintenance replacement contract, so I want to make sure the camera I put in is absolutely going to survive. And I mean survive 5 years. I don't want a camera that's going to die after a year or two because of a heating issue or because of a manufacturer problem where they're just trying to put too much into one camera. So that's my opinion on it. There's some good ones out there. I just recommend you do your homework and test them before you use them. By the way, if you get any bit of an inkling that this camera's got an issue, drop it. Don't mess with it. Go on. Find a camera that is solid, works every time, is not difficult to configure. You do not want a camera that's going to be causing you pain out at your school district site. Okay, so we're looking right now at that little small end power packed dome camera, just to show you briefly that there are a variety of features in here that you can look at. I'm going to click on advanced mode. And you got a lot of different things. I'm going to focus right in on, just the idea that this is an IP device. You can have logs that go out. You can secure who can access this camera. By the way, you always want to make sure that the only people that can access this camera are you and the video management system. But you can have all these logs go out. We can set all the TCP/IP settings. So we can set, what our IP address is. We can set all of that kind of stuff. So under the network tab, we can set up general settings. We can have it get automatic IP addresses. We can set what ports it uses. It can send its images out via FTP if we want it to. Here's that streaming protocol I was telling you about. So this is telling you what your RTSP stream names would be. So you can connect to the camera, put in the website IP of the camera /video.mjpg, and you will get the camera stream, just like I was telling you about in Ed's question. You can also set up dynamic DNS, SNMP. If you have an SNMP monitoring tool at the school district site, you can trap from these cameras as well. You can set up your audio and video sources. Very important is the image features. Here's where we can control day-night sweat, where we can enable or disable the built-in infrared. So if you want the infrared to kick in, we can disable that. You may want it to switch to black and white mode at night. You can have that happen. You can also flip the video orientation up or down or mirror it. And so you've got all those things. You can even put a timestamp in the video title. Most customers hate that, so I don't recommend you do that. But you got all those types of features. Most cameras come with the ability to control motion and then control white balance. Uh-oh, hold on. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I forgot to turn the mic off the camera. Hold on. There we go. Yeah, be very careful when you're doing a WebEx session. Turn the mics off on your cameras. Anyway, in the audio and video section, be very careful when you do go to that audio section. You can turn on two-way audio, inbound and outbound audio. You can also go in here to the stream settings and the image settings, and you can control white balance features. You can also turn on wide dynamic range. You can also control what looks white or what doesn't look white, especially if it's an outdoor camera. You'll have to adjust the white balance. Every one of these cameras can support multiple views, meaning you can have one view the entire area, and then you can have another view digitally zoomed in on some finite subject. And so you can actually have the camera shoot out two camera views to your video management system, one zoomed in and one not zoomed in. You also can have privacy masks. So let's say you had this camera in an office area and you wanted a privacy mask out like somebody's desk where you couldn't see what was going on their monitor or screen, then you could privacy mask that out. So these are all these types of features you can do on the camera. The camera also can have a whole series of events you can manage. Events on motion, events on sensor inputs. You can have emails go out when something happens. You can have it automatically trigger an alarm system. So you have all sorts of event-based systems you can do. This camera also supports an onboard SD chip. So you can record the camera via an SD chip, and you can actually have onboard storage on this particular camera in case your video management system failed. You can also have these cameras work on a schedule. So maybe it would only work on a particular schedule, like only work during certain times of the day. Once again, there is just a load of features in these cameras, and this particular Toshiba camera is no exception. And you'll find that most of the IP camera manufacturers out there have a similar type of scenario. All right, that concludes that discussion on that particular camera. I'm not going to take a deep dive into all the camera. Let's conclude with a discussion on physical infrastructure. Unless I have any questions.
No questions.
All right. So, very good. So, physical infrastructure is a big deal in schools. You always need to investigate the cabling requirements and the cabling pathway that goes from a camera to a distribution facility. This is something that you just have to do. You cannot ignore it. You have to get a cable from the camera to a distribution facility. Now, I know you're immediately going to pipe in and say, what about wireless? Well, you can do wireless. However, take it from a veteran. I have done thousands of wireless cameras and thousands of cabled cameras. Cabled cameras are cheaper. End of story, right? There's just no debate. It is cheaper to put in a cabled camera. However, you may find scenarios where it's a lot cheaper to do wireless. And so where it is cheaper to do wireless and where it's more cost effective to do wireless, then go ahead and do wireless. But in most cases, you'll be running a wire from the camera to the distribution facility. And almost always you'll be doing copper. Rarely would I do fiber to cameras, although there are occasions, especially at light poles or on top of roof buildings or in parking lots or across buildings that had conduit available, where I would run fiber. But investigating cable requirements and pathway is a big part of your job. I haven't mentioned it in here, but on the online course, I make a big deal about the percentage that physical infrastructure makes on a security job. When you go to do an IP security camera job, 40% of your project could be physical infrastructure. Just keep that in mind. Electrical. You need to provide power to the distribution facilities where you'll put in PoE switches, and you may have to provide low voltage power to cameras. Low voltage power may be required when powering a camera, not through PoE, or powering a PTZ engine, or maybe powering a heater or a blower unit. In addition, conduit and EMT runs fall in the electrician's camp. Always remember that. Structured cabling guys typically do not run EMT. Typically, EMT is ran by electricians. Why? Because EMT must be grounded, and EMT could kill people, meaning electricity could ride on the back of an EMT and kill people. Therefore, electricians usually are the ones that install it. Normally, when you run cabling inside buildings, you will require conduit pathway or EMT unless you're okay with going above a drop ceiling. Wireless. Just in a basic few minutes, when you do wireless, normally when you're going wireless indoors, if you need to get to a wireless camera, you can do that with a wireless access point. And as long as you have good, solid wireless coverage, you should be okay. I would limit this, though. If you have the choice, run the cable. On outdoor, be careful. When you start getting into outdoor camera installations, and you start going across long distances, and you start dealing with the public Wi-Fi spectrum, you are asking for trouble if you do not know how to do wireless and you start dabbling. Take it from the renegade guy like me who decided to jump in and start doing wireless projects at a young age. I lost my pants several times underbidding projects where I put in wireless and I just could not get them to work. So outdoor you need to be careful on. Now where outdoor can be easy is on point-to-point bridge applications. There are many vendors out there that now sell point-to-point wireless solutions that are real easy to connect to a remote building where you cannot normally get cabling to. Where you can get power but you can't get cabling, you can start learning a small point-to-point wireless bridge scenario and do pretty good. I would keep that within 300 to 400 feet. As soon as you start getting to 1,000 yards or greater, you start running into potential issue. And unless you know wireless really well, I would bring in somebody who understands it. So wireless is good if it's indoors or simple bridging applications. When you get to outdoor long-distance microwave or public or licensed or public spectrum, then you need to probably bring in expertise until you have some expertise to deal with it. So that's your physical infrastructure. All right. Do I have any questions before I conclude the session? Before we conclude, I just want to highlight, if you, right after this webinar is over, Kiko and I will be busy enrolling you in the 201 course, which means you'll be able to go to physicalsecurityu.com and you will see the 201 course available for you to take. Once you take it and you complete it, then you will be eligible for the Toshiba Profit Max Partner Program at their platinum level. And this is the offer that you see before you. If you do not have a PSU account and you've just joined this webinar and you don't have a PSU account yet, Kiko will be sending you an invite for you and we will send you an account instructions on getting your account after this webinar.
Oh, actually, to clarify, I'm going to be sending an email right now to everybody who registered for this class, and we do need you to submit a registration form before we send you the account information. And so my email will lay it out. It has a hyperlink. You click that, and we just need your name and your company name and your Ingram Micro number, if you can find it, and then we can set you up with an account.
Awesome. So if you do not have a PSU account, you will get an email with instructions to register for an account, and shortly thereafter, you will get your official PSU account. And for those of you who already have a PSU account, bear with us for an hour or so while we enroll you in the PSU 201 course. Once you're enrolled, you'll be able to access everything that I've talked about online today. Will be up there in greater detail. I will also put the recorded session from today's event up there as well, in all of its great audio quality. So that's it. Any further questions? Love to see you online. Send me emails. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check out the videos coming out. And if you want to take any of our future courses, I have a whole bunch more coming out. You're going to see in Q4 there's going to be a flurry of activities. And by the way, as always, these courses are free to Ingram Micro customers. So enjoy them while you got them, and I appreciate your time, and thank you very much. Thank you, Kiko, for helping out with the moderation.
No problem. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.